The meeting is now being recorded. I have pasted the agenda into the chat. If you need to access that, I'll be monitoring the chat throughout. Please keep yourself muted so we're not distracting anyone, but welcome all to the November 17th meeting of the Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Committee. Just as a reminder, closed captioning is available on the desktop version of Microsoft Teams. To enable closed captioning, click the three dots at the top of the window and click Turn on Live Captions. Unfortunately, captioning is not available for the web browser version of Teams. We will start with a roll call. Aaron Arteaga.
Present.
Morning. Anna Baliakova.
Present.
Alina DeGrotto. Mitchell Henke.
Present.
Montavious Jones. Kathleen Minnick.
Present.
Ben Teal.
Present.
Barry Weber.
Present.
Stephen Owen.
Here.
We have one vacancy, which I believe should be filled at our next meeting. That's Emily Cadman, not officially a member yet, but welcome, Emily, and hopefully next month you'll be an official member. So welcome today. We still do not have a DCD rep or a public safety representative, so those two are vacant. But we do have quorum. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of 8 voting members present. So first item is the approval of minutes from the October 20th meeting. I sent them around. Mitch, you want to take it from here?
Sure. Did everybody get a chance to review or have any corrections? Otherwise, hear a motion to approve them.
I move to approve.
Seconded.
Was that Anna making the motion to approve?
Yes.
All right, and Kathleen, yeah.
Thank you. So we have a few items on the agenda today, but I guess we can, or no, Emily, would you want to introduce yourself a little bit? I think we'll have some extra time this meeting.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
My name is Emily Cadman. I am a independent living coordinator at Independence First, and I am really excited to be here to learn more about pedestrian bicycle advocacy and be a voice for the disabled community. So.
Thank you. Really glad to have you here today and going forward. So the first item we had on the agenda was daylighting, but it doesn't look like Alina's here. Is anybody else working with her on that?
We could also maybe push it back.
Yeah, I would move to just push it back.
Shows up.
She's the one who's essentially writing that one for us. So we've talked about it.
Okay. We can schedule an update for the next meeting for that. I wanted to swap the next two agenda items so we can talk about Washington and Scott Bike Boulevard. That's okay with you?
Sure.
Yeah, so this was a project that was announced 2 or 3, more than that, years ago. They have a connection between 26th and the KK River Trail Bike Boulevard across Walker's Point mostly.
Correct.
Switches at like 20th from
Correct.
Washington.
Yep. Jogs over at 20th.
The timelines on the website have construction scheduled for last year, I believe. So just any updates on?
Yeah, I'm gonna guess. Nicole, you're a neighbor down there, right? Washington, Scott, Walker's Square area, I believe.
Yes, you're absolutely
Awesome.
right. Yep.
Yeah,
I live on 9th and Washington.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, Washington Scott, this was a I believe, I can't recall, Kate, if you know, chime in, but either a TAP or a CMAQ funded, federally funded project. It kind of kicked off during right before the pandemic hit, and then kind of carried through into 2020. Unfortunately, hit some delays just in terms of scheduling and staffing issues that came up. But we are still moving forward on it. It's been tied to a resurfacing project as well.
On Washington.
On Washington, the pavement's pretty poor, so the street will be resurfaced. I'll let Peter in as well. Someone did, thank you. So this year, there was some utility work that was done in advance of the resurfacing. But come next spring, early summer, whenever construction picks up, the resurfacing will happen, and then the bike boulevard improvements will go in. Currently, we are looking at a combination of traffic circles, curb extensions, speed humps, and some minor striping changes east of the interstate. The traffic circles will go in from going from west to east here, 25th and Scott, 20th and Scott, 10th and Washington, curb extensions going in at 21st and Scott, and then 11th, 8th, and 2nd and Washington. There'll also be several new speed humps installed, I think 7 or 8 along the corridor, with the goal of basically every block having some sort of traffic calming, be it a traffic circle. There's also some existing traffic calming out there, traffic circle, speed hump, curb extensions. There's also some signalized intersections just to kind of slow traffic down. Some wayfinding signage and wayfinding pavement markings, but really the intent is to connect people to the KK River Trail on the east. And then we also want to continue this project eventually all the way to the west to 37th Street, which is another proposed bike boulevard that Kate Reardon, who's on the call in the multimodal team, is actually leading another project kind of in the Burnham Park area to start building out a bike boulevard on 37th Street as well. So it's definitely been a long, kind of longer than expected, definitely some delays, which we apologize for. But it is looking like everything should go in next spring when construction starts up again.
So we can plan on summer-ish?
Yeah, it's not a huge construction project by any means. We are looking to see if there's anything else, if we can find some additional funding, perhaps kind of near the park, Walker Square Park, and see if we can do anything else. We're trying to identify some more funding, but currently that kind of what I walked through is what's proposed. But yes, next summer it should be complete.
And the 37th would connect to the Hank Aaron as well?
Yeah. So 37th gets you right to the Hank Aaron State Trail connection at Pierce and the Urban Ecology Center there. So again, it's, we're really trying to focus on building connections and making a network of connected bikeways.
Sorry, the last curb extension you said was on 2nd Street?
Correct. Yep. And we're continuing to look at 2nd. Obviously, that's a pretty wide intersection. Looking at other ways to slow it down. There are a lot of utilities in the middle of that intersection, which makes it a little challenging, but yeah, we definitely want to focus some attention there.
Thank you. Any committee members have any questions, comments?
I was just wondering if there's been evaluation of the Fratney Street Bike Boulevard and like how that's going, and if you've learned anything from that it can be applied here.
I think we have some speed studies. I don't have them off the top of my head. I can look. I think one thing we want to continue to try and do more traffic calming, and on Fratney, we're continuing to think about ways we can continue to improve that even. Definitely some lessons learned. We want to make sure that, on the bike boulevard, nobody has to cross uncontrolled crossings. So we're looking still at Fratney and making improvements to ensure that that's the case. I think we have some speed studies on Fratney. I'll check. It's been a couple of years now, so we should, if we haven't already, we should also just do a quick crash analysis kind of before and after, so we can have that information for the next meeting.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else on the committee? Any members of the public have questions or comments?
Let's let Nicole put her comments in the chat. Nicole, if you want to.
Yeah,
Just
just to say that we're very excited. We've been hopeful and waiting for these traffic calming improvements to be made on Washington Street and Scott Street. We're super supportive of it. We think it'll be a huge asset for our neighborhood. And I'm actively involved with Walker Square Neighborhood Association and a newly formed Friends of Walker Square Park. So if collaboration with us would be helpful at any point as you seek additional funding to do even more, particularly around the park, please just let me know.
awesome.
And thank you all. Thanks for your work on this.
Appreciate you and Peter and your continued advocacy and push. And again, we apologize for the delays, but it should be a good project when it happens, and hopefully we can make it even better.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Not hearing anything else or seeing any other hands raised. We can move on to our next.
Can I make a quick question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Live from the trail.
Yeah, exactly. On our way to school, we just took Washington Street. Did you already say something? I'm guessing you did, about the first street crossing.
No, I did not. So at First in Washington.
Yes.
It's signalized now. What is your thought, comment, suggestion?
Just any way to make that a little safer and easier to cross.
Okay.
One thing is the signal does take a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. We'll take a look. It wasn't something we were kind of prioritizing initially with the limited funding we have, but if we can find some additional funds, I believe there's also some upcoming resurfacing work on First, so perhaps we can make some improvements as part of that too.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Does the button work?
Buttons always work.
This is Ben. I just want to mention, I want to echo that comment. That is probably the longest light I've ever waited at in the city, crossing First on Washington. That's a great comment.
Okay. We'll take a look at the signal timing too, just to see if there's any tweaks that can be made.
And there is a project coming up on that one in the next, maybe 5 to 7 years. I can't remember what the timeline is on that one, but we will be redoing that area completely in at least, like I said, 5 to 7 years probably.
Are there sensors in the street that, that detect when cars are there? And then if there are, does it detect when bikes are there? Does any changing of the light happen because of cars or bikes?
We have very few, if any, sensors at this point. I will check to see exactly what's going on there and report back. Most of our signals are what we call pre-timed, where they just automatically change over. They're not actuated where, they're waiting for a vehicle or
no detection or
push
anything.
button, correct. But I'll confirm what's going on exactly at First Street.
Thank you.
Kate, are you saying that that is the case at First in Washington, or just in general?
In general, but I'm pretty sure that is actuated at First in Washington.
Right. Yeah, we'll take a look.
Same thing for 6th and Washington, which is also a pretty long wait.
So signal timing improvements should absolutely be considered, or signal improvements.
It's, I assume, inductive, which means bikes may not always trigger it.
Yeah, mine won't. Mine's carbon.
Yep.
Must maybe have a large steel one. Somebody has their hand raised.
Yeah, Becky, you have your hand raised?
Yes, thank you. And I came in kind of late, so I have a question. and you tell me whether or not it pertains to this particular project. The resurfacing that was done on First Street, is this part of that project that you're referring to?
No, two separate projects.
Yeah, it is not.
Okay,
We're
thank you.
talking about Washington and Scott Streets.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments from anyone? All right.
You good, Anna?
I assume it's another comment on steel bikes. I guess, yeah, we can.
And then you needed 50.
Yeah. We can move on to the next item if there are no more questions. Thank you for the update.
Yeah, we'll follow up and check on some of those details.
I look forward to it. I think it'll be kind of ties into the KKRT connections project too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which should be good. Though further out. So the next item is scooters. This was prompted. DPW is, I think, at the direction of the Common Council seeking to make. I saw that it was an item in the budget.
It was a footnote in the budget, which has no legislative impacts. But it was passed.
It's a resolution-y, not even?
No, it's not even a resolution. If they follow it up with a resolution, they can then direct DPW to do it. But just because they direct someone to do something in the budget, it has absolutely no effect. So it kind of expresses their intent, but unless they actually pass the resolution, DPW doesn't have to do anything. But my understanding is that you guys are already working on an ordinance that has something to do with the scooter program.
Correct.
Which Jeff Osterman is doing the drafting on it, so I'm not real familiar with what's going on. So.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, Kate Reardon's here and can provide an update if desired.
Yeah, that would be great.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Kate Reardon, Senior Transportation Planner with the Multimodal Unit. So as was being chatted about, we are pursuing a permanent program for dockless scooters. We are just wrapping up our third pilot study, hoping it will be our final pilot study. So we are looking to put a resolution before Common Council, which will go through the Public Works Committee, hopefully in the next few months. We've got a couple of things to tie up on our end, but we are seeking letters of support. And so I'd reached out to Mitch to see if PBAC would be willing to write a letter of support, and I know he has put something together. So I'm happy to answer any questions you all have about the program, either our pilots or what we're thinking for the permanent program.
Are there any planned changes at this point that are significantly different from the most recent pilot program?
So I think the biggest change is that we are going to only have 2 operators instead of 3 like we've had in the past in all of our pilot studies for a couple of reasons. One, that's just the way the scooter market is going. There's been some consolidations or operators just ceasing to exist. So we think 2 is right in terms of who will be around, and then also just for staff time and being able to successfully manage the number of operators that we have. That's the biggest one. Everything else, we're making some slight changes to deployment zones and requirements, but largely things will remain the same.
I have a question. Are the requirements of the scooter operation going to be in the ordinance itself? Or is the ordinance just going to say that DPW is going to run this program and then DPW is going to be able to make its determinations outside of the ordinance?
Hopefully the latter. I think we are still working on specific ordinance language. I believe in a previous pilot study, the terms and conditions were attached to the file and referenced. But we were still able to make changes to those terms and conditions throughout the pilot.
Thank you.
And that would give you more flexibility if you needed to, say, adjust zones or similar.
So we
Without
lose
having
flexibility going into a permanent program. There are probably some things that we can retain in terms of flexibility, but one thing is, the operators want some kind of sense of stability. So we do lose that with a permanent program. But given that we've had 3 pilot studies, we've got some good experience of what we want and what works and what doesn't.
Sure. Are there any plans to expand the corrals or required parking in corrals, I should say?
Yep, so we definitely want to expand corrals. I think we installed, I don't remember the exact number, but it's definitely over 100. We'd like to do more. We've got ideas of where those will go. One challenge we face is just like getting a contractor who is affordable to do it, but hopefully we can do that or be able to do some of the work ourselves.
Any committee members have questions, comments?
I would just say in response to Mitch, your initial comment too about the footnote that was passed. I mean, it's been our intention to create a permanent program. And, obviously the mayor supports mobility improvements and better transportation options and access. So it was a pleasant surprise for us to see that. I mean, obviously, as Kathy said, it's kind of non-binding, but it was good to see there's some general support out there from Common Council. And our intent is to still have it citywide, which is also important.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if everybody got a chance to review the letter, but it does kind of mention those 2 safety aspects and continuing to improve them, and right-of-way access and maintenance. Anna?
Oh yeah, I think we've done enough pilots. I think we already know that this is a really great piece of like the overall mobility picture. I loved your letter, Mitch. So I was just going to move that we adopt the letter in support of the permanent scooter program.
I agree.
Is that Kathy? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, second.
I think we'll take a full vote on this, and I'll give all committee members a chance to speak for a little bit if they would like as well.
All right, so you're I'll call roll call then. So the motion was made by Anna to support the letter of support, seconded by Kathy. Aaron.
Yes.
Yes, are you in favor of supporting the letter of support?
Oh, no, I don't support it.
Okay, so that's a no. Anna.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Ben.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Who am I missing? Me. Mitch.
Yes.
Is that everyone? Did I miss anyone? I feel like everybody's here.
No, I think that's everyone. Cool.
So Aaron, yeah, Anna. Mitch. Yep. Okay. So the motion passes 5-1 with Aaron voting no. Thank you all for providing the letter.
Is there anybody in particular that should receive it? I have it addressed to the chair of Public Works Committee.
Kate, do you have any chair of Public Works? That's fine, right?
Yeah, chair of Public Works, and then send the final to me.
Will do.
We'll put it with the file.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you. Wow, so we had a relatively efficient meeting today. That was, I think, the last.
So Alina is still not here, right?
No,
Okay, so yeah, we'll hold that.
so we will,
If we, sorry, if not to like go backwards, but if we have a little bit of time, and Aaron, if you feel comfortable, I would be personally curious to hear about your concerns, but we don't have to go into this if you don't want to.
It's fine. I can share my thoughts.
please,
Oh, you want me to do that now?
if you're comfortable, yeah.
Oh, for sure. All right. Okay. So just from my own knowledge of different books that I read, articles, research, and from different cities and other countries that are actually undoing the program because it didn't work out, because of studies, there's not enough studies they have not happened yet because scooters are still primary new. So that's why I don't feel anything should be permanent yet until there's enough studies, just because from what I've seen so far in the city, they have not really assisted anybody in actually commuting. I mean, from research, it only shows that it's only people from downtown that are going maybe 10, 15 minutes away. And they're all young people. So they're not really diverse when it comes to people in age. And there's not really a lot of liability for certain companies to actually check that people are 18, wearing helmets, are going the right speeds, are following rules, which they're not. So that's one of the things why I feel nothing should be permitted until it actually goes through a large or a longer process than this. You know what I mean? Like, and why not even focus more on actually having protected bike lanes and things like that, and improving things that we need now in certain neighborhoods that are having the most crashes and things of that nature, instead of like adding more to the congestion already. So that was my whole thing.
Definitely. I appreciate that. Was there anything else that anybody wanted to add on scooters? I know we already approved the letter, but there's additional recommendations we want to make to DPW as part of this.
The committee could recommend that DPW does follow up on those concerns about, what are the companies doing to make sure that the rules are being enforced? And I apologize, I haven't been following along real closely with how DPW is trying to enforce those things. Maybe they already are, but it could be made explicit that that's something that DPW look into or stay on top of. Because there is always the chance that once this is made permanent, when you're doing a pilot study, you're looking at it and you're kind of on top of things, but once it's a permanent sort of thing, it just becomes part of it. Maybe the enforcement does get more lax just as time goes on. And if the enforcement isn't great to begin with, that could be problematic.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to have too detailed of a discussion here or not, but Kate, I don't know if you want to chime in on any of our previous pilot study evaluations and at a high level, some of the things we're seeing.
Yeah, and I have a presentation pulled up if we actually want to look at some numbers. But in terms of enforcement, I think it was mentioned, younger people using it. So the city doesn't have its own regulations in terms of how old you can be to use it. That's all based on what the companies require. So they each require 18, and you have to say that you are. Obviously people can lie about that or just click yes or different birth date. And we also don't require helmets. It's encouraged by the operators again, and they do a lot of helmet giveaways to help encourage people to use helmets. We do see a lot of ridership, and this is where I will share my screen and just, this is not current numbers, I'll say. This is what I put together in the summer, but So we do require different distributions based on these zones here. And so this is our ridership by zone. So we do have, the highest ridership is in downtown, which is zone 1, and then the east side, zone 2. But we do see decent ridership throughout the city. I'd say particularly, I'll flip back to the zone 5, so the near south side actually gets some pretty good ridership. And this is a change we made between our first pilot study and our second pilot study, was really changing where these zones are in the distribution requirements. So you can see in 2019, those percentages were really low. We had about half of the trips starting in downtown, but that, based on how we changed the zones and the deployment requirements, we did see a lot of ridership change throughout the city. So it is something, we do want this to be useful for people throughout the city. I don't have our survey results pulled up, but we do find that people actually use them more so to get to places. I think only 20% of people say they're riding it for recreation. So that means every other trip is to get somewhere, not necessarily to get to work. It might be to get to a friend's house or somewhere else. So I do think people are using it to get places. People are using it for fun too. And I think that's also okay. Like, it's okay for people to have fun. Those are just a couple of things responding to Rowan's comments, but happy to share other information or answer any other questions.
Have there been any claims against the city? I know, like, if an accident or something happens, the scooter companies, I'm assuming, would pay for things, but have there also been claims directed to the city regarding accidents?
Not that I've been aware of.
Okay, just wondering.
No.
Rebecca?
Kate, in regards to your reporting, is that basically coming from data from the actual app? Do you have any data in regards to complaints and types of complaints?
Yes, I do.
Because I just think of, like credit card users, that it could be a problem sometimes, because we still see a lot of parking of the scooters within the public right of way going across the sidewalk.
Yeah, so here's our complaint data. So our current pilot study started in September, and these numbers are up to date. So from September to present, we had 71 complaints.
September 22.
September 2022. Yeah, sorry. So we had 49 complaints related to improper parking. That was our largest complaint. We do require that operators address those complaints about parking that come to them within 2 hours. If it comes like during the daytime, there's specific hours. And they are really good about addressing those complaints within that time period. We also do audits of parking. So our staff or usually interns will go out and just check where there's a lot of scooters parked, see which ones are parked improperly or properly. And it's a surprising percentage. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but we really see like 90% parked correctly. You tend to remember that one time that you saw one that was not parked correctly, and so you think they're all parked incorrectly, but when you actually go out and see the percentage of scooters that are parked incorrectly or correctly, it's actually really high, that the percentage that are parked correctly.
Or you could be like me, you see it, you stop your car, you pick it up and you move it and you don't lodge a complaint, So
yeah,
especially when it's on First Street,
Yeah. And doing our audits, that's what we see is pretty good compliance with parking.
Thanks. I think, I know that like long reports were made for past years. Is that going to happen for this one as well?
Yeah, so that you're looking at it right now, it's going to be slightly different. It's not going to be the same full written report, but this is a PowerPoint presentation, so mostly just reporting on some of these numbers.
Cool. Would you, if it's in its final form, could you share that with the committee? And I think we can consider future recommendations going forward.
Yeah, so we still have Lime scooters out right now. They're leaving on Monday is their last day, so I'm waiting for that to them to be gone to finalize these numbers. But once these are finalized, I can certainly share it.
There was a question in the chat if the scooter companies pay money, and I believe they do per ride per scooter.
They do. So during this current pilot study, we had a $300 application fee, and then a $50 per device fee per year. So that since this spanned 2 years, we received that funding last year and then again this year, and then 25 cents per trip. And again, this is not an updated number. This is from earlier this year.
And this mostly covers staff time for operating the program?
Staff time, our contract with the data company that the platform that we use to monitor the program, parking corrals. Trying to think what else have we used it for so far, Mike? Anything else?
No, I think that's it to date. I mean, the state statutes made it pretty clear we need to use any revenue we get needs to go back into the program. So, things, if we move forward and fees increase, we can use it for things like protected bike lanes, because we know scooter riders want to have safe places to ride as well.
Cool, thank you. And again, yeah, if you could just send that out to the members, so everybody can take a look.
There is June at some point? So this presentation was given to Public Works Committee in, I believe, June, obviously through June, that had a lot of the similar information. As Kate said, this one's not quite, it's still in draft format, but we can share the June one for sure.
I guess, do you know when does this pilot study officially end? End of the year? No?
We're authorized through the end of the year, but Finn and BO have both pulled their scooters, and then, like I said, Monday Lime will be pulling their scooters, so that will be the official end.
And will there be like a final report after that?
That's what this is.
Oh, okay. Then, yeah, if we could get a copy of that, that would be great. Anna's typing something, but feel free to speak if that's cool. Cool.
Sorry, thanks, guys.
It's all good. Thank you.
Excuse me, if anyone is interested, the dockless scooter revenue that's being proposed or that was adopted for next year is $253,000.
Estimated or estimated? Okay.
Yeah, but that's kind of what they're looking at.
Thank you. I think we can, if there's no further comments, I think we can move on. Thank you, Kate, for sharing and answering questions. I think the next item is new business. Is there anything we wanted to discuss?
Work group updates and discussion.
Oh, sorry. We do have work group updates. So targeted improvements did not meet this month. Did other work groups get a chance to meet? Projects? No. Policy? Also no.
I was gonna say I didn't make the meeting.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Strategic communications is on hold. I think that is all of the work groups, so it sounds like there are no updates for this month. So I guess we can move into new business. Is there anything that anybody wanted to discuss as a group next month? Or does DPW have anything that they anticipate? Somebody's joining. Otherwise, the only item I had was daylighting for next month. Getting to the quieter part of the DPW infrastructure wise. Easier in other ways, I'm sure. But there's no other new business that anybody would like to discuss. We can always email me or Barry between now and the next meeting. If something comes up. And I think we can move into events. Events and other stuff. Like announcements.
Also known as other stuff.
I don't remember. Other stuff is very inclusive. Yeah, Jessica.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to share that there is a World Day of Remembrance for Victims of Traffic Violence this Sunday. The event is put on by the Coalition for Safe Driving, and it's from 12:30 to 2 at All Saints Catholic Church at 26th and Capitol. And there'll be families speaking and some resources for them. And we hope this is part of what maybe will help build a local Milwaukee Families for Safe Streets group. But we also just want to really support and remember these victims.
Absolutely. Thank you. Barry?
This isn't an event or even an announcement as much as just a extension of appreciation to DPW and beyond with the new I don't know if we'd say bike not protected bike lanes, but still the bike lanes and the project on Martin Drive. So going right around Washington Park and connecting Martin Drive to Highland Boulevard there around 35th Street. For anyone who's seen that as of late, there's a whole new asphalt paving, and now you have the vehicles, the cars parked on the opposite side, so to speak, of the bike lane. And I take that area a lot, and it is so much less stress now to ride around there, even at rush hour. So just wanted to say, for those who haven't seen it yet, it's a fantastic little spot there.
Thank you, Barry. I would call that a protected bike lane. It's still in progress, but there is, as you said, the bike lane is now curbside with the parking lane kind of floating between the bike lane and travel lane. Concrete pinned on islands should be going in this fall still. Yeah. I think they're actually going in right now. Actually, next spring, we were hoping to get it done this year, but the time goes by too quickly. We will be installing bus boarding islands as well in kind of that buffer space. So any of the areas you see that look like they might be missing some striping, they'll actually have some bus boarding islands where the bus will stop in lane. There'll be a big kind of island there for bus passengers to get on and off the bus, prioritizes transit, minimizes delay for transit. So really good improvements there on Highland. So thank you.
Is that the first time that's happened, other than like a pork chop?
It might be. We have several. So we also have protected bike lanes on Walnut east of the interstate now that I can't recall if they have floating bus islands or not. But yeah, there's a lot happening. Something that we've been talking a lot about is doing a better job of kind of showing everything and mapping everything and providing updates. But yeah, thank you, Barry.
Yeah, and I will just add to that, not to be all gushing about great things here to end the meeting, but yeah, I took Walnut the other day. I think a lot of us are, just to ride that new off protected bike lane with the kind of almost separate trail area. And, I knew that was coming, so that was fun to ride. But like you said, the east part of Walnut heading by the Youth Arts Center and such, and by the old Schlitz Brewery, and how that, I didn't know that was all coming to such an extent. And with that bus boarding areas and everything, that whole Walnut Strip, which I've taken for many a time, used to be such a harrowing experience. And that's, again, just a huge, huge improvement. And I'm really excited about it all.
Well, thank you.
Awesome. Rebecca?
I have kind of couple questions. You had mentioned a policy subcommittee. I guess the extent of what the policy is, maybe policy for DPW. And one of the reasons why it's kind of twofold is just talking about the protected bike lanes and the floating bus stops. Wayfinding has been a big issue for me. And Stan Lucas, who's a design consultant that both WisDOT and the city of Milwaukee use, had shot me off an email about wayfinding for Walnut Street, wayfinding for the floating bus stops. And I had, a few comments, and he asked, what's been used in other communities for wayfinding. And one of the things that I stressed 3 times in my email to him was including the blind community as part of that decision process, because they're going to know what works best for them. So it's kind of like both of them. I think the protected bike lanes are great, but it does affect the disabled community a little bit. And then how's that policy developed to hear from the community on what best works for them?
So the policy work group, I don't think has discussed anything along those lines. But I would, I guess, direct any feedback on that to DPW.
Yeah, no, thank you, Becky, and we're well aware of your feedback, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to just kind of hold off a little bit on Highland too, is to make sure we try and get it right the first time. So thank you, and yes, we'll definitely continue to coordinate with you.
I have a couple. Oops, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mike. I'd be willing to see if we can coordinate something with like Vision Forward, Beyond Vision, and some other organizations with the blind community, maybe to have a meeting with DPW and provide many voices, because what may work for one may not work for the other, and what's a consensus. So I would be happy to help work on that with DPW if you'd like.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple events. The next one is next week, Friday, 6 p.m. at Red Arrow Park, monthly critical mass ride. So if you're interested in a friendly, slow group ride, check it out. And the other one that I wanted to mention was the Santa Rampage ride, December 2nd, run by the Bike Fed, Wisconsin Bike Fed. Anybody else have any events or announcements? Otherwise, I think we can call it, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Who was that?
Can I do that?
No, I just said, or we can just sit here in silence.
Oh, okay. Sorry, was that, we need a motion first.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Barry.
Second.
Awesome.
Kathy.
Thank you. Thanks,
All
everybody.
right, thank
Have a
you
great
all.
weekend.
The next meeting is December 15th.
Have a good Thanksgiving, everybody.
See y'all.
All right, bye.
See ya.